Alright, this is a video to Gary, alright? I'll put a link to the video I'm replying to down below. Now here's the thing, Gary. First of all, in terms of your confusion about me agreeing with you and Stickum and Tiny Chat and stuff sometimes, and then seeming to have a different opinion, here's how it works. If I make a point in those debate chats of making my position clear, you kick me. Alright, so the times you haven't kicked me, I was probably just asking you about your position, which you consider agreement. No, once I find, oh, this is how your ideas fit together, and I go, oh, I can see that you're taking an activist's approach, which in this case means derived energy is just he's a part of the project. And I go, okay, I see where you're coming from. Doesn't mean I agree with you, right? In fact, I think that you have some issues with your position. Okay, first of all, your whole attitude about the Anne Frank example just shows you and I have a different attitude. You're going to stand up to those Nazis and sacrifice the Frank family as a result, as a necessary result. You know, or another example is, let's say the Nazis haven't come to your door, but you're hiding this family in your attic. Are you the one that should be going into the street to the protests and drawing attention to yourself? No, you should probably act above suspicion. Because not all goals can be worked on all at the same time, and sometimes you have to make a decision. Now, if you've been making videos about how terrible Indonesia was for a long time, then maybe you would have told Derived Energy, don't go over there, they got crazy laws. Derived Energy went over there and then broke their laws. Right? Now, I'm like, well, the law's stupid, he should get his freedom. But your position basically is like, well, that's his thing. He got himself in this mess, and now you're just going to work on the kind of the meta issue here, the important issue of these international drug laws. But you're also going to ignore sovereignty. You're going to ignore, what about their attitude towards us? We fucked them over, so why couldn't they have the same attitude that you're having? You want to hate all Indonesians now? Well, doesn't make sense, and it's not consistent, because you're interested in this after the fact because of derived energy. Now you're going to act like, no, your whole manner of your being is repairing, you know, their laws. And I think you're mixing up the two things. He decided to go over there with their current laws, and now he has to deal with the fact he broke their current laws, right? Now, some people, like his family and friends, might be concerned about that. And you think it's a compromise to not go and deal with the bigger picture? Well, what the fuck were you doing before? When there was a bigger picture before derived energy got caught, you weren't saying shit. So I think there's something related to derived energy getting into this situation. And you have a very strict attitude about when people do things that could cause suffering that you're not applying to yourself. And that's a fact. And by the way, you're wrong. A lot of people have kids thinking that their kids will make the world a better place. It's a part of their self-centered egotism. It's a crazy idea. I'll agree with all of that. But it does exist. And it's no different from you saying, oh, well, there's this greater good. You know, if what I do causes problems to derived energy, then blah, blah, blah. Well, why don't you wait? Why don't you talk to derived energy? Maybe he could talk to you and tell you what he would like you to do. But if you're going to forcibly make him into an activist when he was just teaching English and probably is just as more interested in getting out of that country as fixing their laws, well, he ought to have some say that if he becomes a pawn in that project or not, in my opinion. All right. And then again, to summarize, the problem with the chats is that you don't want to know other people's opinions. And if somebody sees your opinion and goes, oh, I see, you're taking this activist approach where derived energy is just a foot soldier. He'll endure, do whatever because there's a bigger issue. And you're making that decision for him. Okay? I understand how that pieces together. Yeah, I think there's some sense to that, but it's not necessarily what's going to make derived energy's life better for the next 10 years. And if it was just another project of yours, I wouldn't be saying stop doing it. But then again, if you're just bitching in Indonesia and you don't have a particular person that bitching is associated with, then what are they going to do? Punish all their Western prisoners worse? Probably not. There would be blowback on them. But if you're associated with just one person, they could treat everybody but him better, and all they're doing is reacting the way you're reacting. Oh, this fucker, he needs to go back, fucker, well, I got this and I can do this. And you stop buying shoes and they'll just leave derived energy in jail for years. I acknowledge that that's how you felt. You said specifically you were more concerned about attacking Indonesia than you were about the little peculiarities of derived energies situation. Concerned about he's suffering, but there's something more important than whether he suffers more versus less. Oh yeah, the other thing, you got confused with that comment. Well, I left out the word no, my comment to Grey Text. Grey Text was going, so what, someone in Thailand? Why? Who cares what they say about Indonesia? Yeah, when you live closer and they're in the news regularly, you do get more information. And he used the example of Germany. I said, you know what, you probably do know more about Germany than just your average person that's living far away, than someone in Thailand. You could probably, if your friend got arrested in Germany, you'd probably have more knowledge just off the bat of how their legal system works than somebody in Thailand would, and vice versa.